we are taking up the topic principal and molar specific heat of gas, and we need to understand the difference between these two. Now, the specific heat of gas, specific heat capacity or specific heat of gas, the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of unit mass of gas through 1 degree centigrade. We have done it in previous classes also, and we used to give it as the amount of heat is equal to mc delta T. So C is the specific heat capacity, or here we call it as principal specific heat of the gases, and C is given as Q upon M into delta T. So this is the principal specific heat of gas. इसको generalize, इसको हम specify करके अगर बोले तो this is called the principal specific heat of gas. Now we'll see what do we mean by molar specific heat of gas. And before we start, what we need to understand is, yes, when we are talking about this, okay, C is equal to Qm into delta T. Now, if the process is isothermal, okay, process isothermal, no change in temperature, that is delta T becomes 0. So, in that case, C will be equal to Q upon M into 0 and will be infinity. In other case, that is the adiabatic process. No exchange of heat takes place, yani ki Q is equal to 0. So C will also be equal to 0. So what we are seeing is that the specific heat of gas depends upon the nature of the thermodynamic process. Kya nature hai? Isothermal hai ki adiabatic hai. And it may take the values between infinity to 0. This is what we are saying under these two conditions. So the specific heat of gas can be defined under two specific conditions, because temperature of a gas can be changed in two different ways. The first is keeping the volume constant, if we keep the volume constant, and the second is keeping the pressure constant. I repeat again that the temperature of a gas can be changed by keeping first, we keep the volume constant. Okay. And second, we keep the pressure constant. So, what we can do is, we will be seeing the specific heat at constant volume and specific heat at constant temperature. So, when we are defining the principal specific heat, it can be defined in two ways. Okay. This is specific heat at constant volume and specific heat at constant temperature. And how are we defining it? That is the amount of heat required by 1 gram of gas to raise its temperature by 1 degree centigrade at constant volume is known as your specific heat at constant volume, given as small cv is equal to Q upon M into delta T. Similarly, the specific heat at constant pressure is the same thing. Amount of heat required by 1 gram of gas to raise its temperature by 1 degree centigrade at constant pressure. And here we write Cp. Here please pay attention. We are denoting it with small c, Cv and Cp is equal to Qm into delta T. So this specific heat capacity can be defined separately. And when we are dealing with two types of processes, that is the isothermal process and adiabatic process. Okay, in both the cases, the C, that is the specific heat capacity, is varying between infinity to 0, and you saw this. So it becomes difficult to define it, and we define specific heat capacity under two headings at a constant volume and constant pressure, and these are the definition. After this, we are coming to the molar specific heat, and we'll see what is the basic difference between these two. So now from principal specific heat capacity of gases se hum aa rahe hain molar specific heat of gas. Okay, again molar specific heat of gases are two types: molar specific heat at constant volume and at constant pressure. Now let us see under what condition we are calling it molar specific heat. When initially in the principal specific heat, we were taking 1 gram of gas. Now instead of 1 gram of gas, if we take 1 mole of gas, then this specific heat is known as molar specific heat of gas at constant volume and pressure. Kahani this will be the same. That is the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 mole of gas. Instead of 1 gram, now we'll say 1 mole of gas at through 1 degree centigrade or 1 Kelvin at constant volume. So what we see here is that M is the molecular mass of the gas. Okay, m is the molecular mass of gas, and when we take here CV, this becomes capital CV m CV. Okay, this is the principal specific heat at constant volume. This is the molar specific heat at constant volume. So when we are taking 1 mole or mu mole, moles की बात हो रही है, then it will be known as your molar specific heat capacity. Hence CV can be written as Q upon, वहां m लिखते थे, यहां हम mu लिख रहे हैं because we are talking about moles and delta T. Okay, this is at constant volume. Volume is constant, and this is known as your molar specific heat at constant volume. What basically you need to understand in very short, जो आपको समझना है, is that principal specific heat and molar specific heat are of two types. First, principal specific heat at constant volume, principal specific heat at constant pressure. Okay, we take principal specific heat when we are considering 1 gram of gas to increase its temperature through 1 degree centigrade or 1 Kelvin. When we are talking about molar specific heat of gas, then we are taking 1 mole of gas. Okay, 1 mole है, if we are taking in moles, you can say. Okay, so 1 mole ले रहे हैं, instead of 1 gram, हम 1 mole ले रहे हैं, because when we have to define it, we have to be very specific. So when we are defining molar specific heat of constant volume, we define amount of heat required by 1 mole of gas to increase its temperature through 1 degree centigrade or 1 Kelvin at constant volume is called molar specific heat. But when we are doing our numericals, in general, the formula mu is taken depending upon the number of moles you are taking. Okay, similarly, and the relationship between the molar specific gas and the principal specific gas will be CV. Capital CV is equal to molecular mass of gas, jitna bhi hai, 1, 2, mu, whatever it is, and CV. So when we are talking about molar specific heat at constant pressure, this is the same. We are talking CP is equal to MCP. Capital CP is equal to M small cp, and the same equation, this will be Q mu delta T at constant pressure. This will be the molar specific heat at constant pressure. Defining it will be the amount of heat required by 1 mole of gas to increase its temperature through 1 degree centigrade or 1 Kelvin at constant pressure is called molar specific heat of gas at constant pressure. The definitions I will send you, and I have explained this to you. If you have any query, you can ask.